A rotting log looks completely dead from the outside, just a fallen tree slowly coming apart on the forest floor. But crack one open, and you'll find something that most biologists call one of the most biodiverse microhabitats on the planet. Scientists have documented that a single large log, roughly a meter wide and 10 meters long, can support over 1,500 invertebrate species during its lifetime. In boreal forests across Scandinavia, dead wood supports approximately 1/4 of all forest-associated species. 1/4 of everything alive in an entire forest living inside something that looks completely dead. And the biggest twist, a rotting log is, in many measurable ways, more biologically alive than the living tree it came from. To understand how that's possible, you need to know that wood doesn't just rot randomly. It passes through 5 distinct stages. Scientists call these decay classes 1 through 5, and each stage brings an entirely different set of creatures with it. Stage 1 starts the moment the tree falls, bark still intact, wood still firm. The first animals to arrive are bark beetles from family Scolatinae, drilling under the bark and laying their eggs in the wood. These beetles carve gallery tunnels so species-specific that entomologists can identify the exact beetle just by reading the pattern. Wood-boring beetles from Cerambicidae and Buprestidae follow next, tunneling deeper, creating corridors that other creatures will use for years. By stage 2, the bark starts peeling off, and something invisible begins taking over, fungal hyphae pushing through the wood fiber. Fungi aren't optional here, they are the only organisms on Earth capable of breaking down one of wood's core components, lignin. Lignin makes up 15 to 30% of a tree's dry weight. It's the compound that gives wood its strength and holds its cells together. White rot fungi like termites and Ganoderma produce enzymes called ligninases that chemically dismantle lignin's molecular structure. Brown rot fungi attack the cellulose and hemicellulose instead, leaving a crumbly brown skeleton behind. The mycelium, the vegetative body of the fungus, threads through the log in every direction, reaching every cell wall it can access. A single gram of rotting wood can contain several kilometers of these hyphal threads. The mycelium also acts as a moisture sponge, keeping the log interior significantly more humid than the outside air, even during dry summer months. That moisture draws the next resident in lungless salamanders from family Plethodontidae, found across Appalachian forests. These animals have no lungs at all. They breathe entirely through their skin, which means they die if they dry out. The inside of a stage 3 log holds humidity near 100%, making it irreplaceable habitat for them. In forests where dead wood has been removed, plethodontid salamander populations drop 50 to 80% compared to old-growth stands. Stage 3 is the peak biodiversity point, bark mostly gone, wood soft on the outside, an entire ecosystem operating inside. Millipedes arrive as primary shredders, chewing through fungus-softened wood and breaking it apart mechanically. Centipedes follow the millipedes as predators. The log is running its own food chain inside a shell of decomposing wood. Carpenter ants from genus Camponotus excavate galleries in the moist interior. A single colony can number in the tens of thousands. Their excavation accelerates physical wood breakdown, punching aeration into the structure and exposing new surfaces to fungal spores. In tropical climates, termites take over as the dominant decomposers, with single colonies reaching millions of individuals per log. Then there are the creatures too small to see without a microscope, and the numbers here become almost incomprehensible. Mites reach densities of hundreds of thousands per cubic meter of wood in advanced decay stages. Springtails, most between 0.5 and 2 millimeters long, graze on fungal hyphae, and their grazing actually stimulates fungal growth and boosts enzymatic output. Nematodes reach densities of tens of thousands per gram of decaying wood by stage 4. Bacterial cell counts in decaying would have been measured at 10 to the 9th cells per gram, numbers matching fertile agricultural topsoil. Pseudoscorpions, tiny arachnids just 1 to 8 millimeters long, hunt mites and springtails and solve their dispersal problem in a brilliant way. When they need to move to a new log, they grip onto a passing beetle and hitchhike, riding the beetle's flight to their next home. By stage 4, the log is collapsing inward, earthworms threading through it, the wood becoming essentially soil. And by stage 5, the log is gone, fully merged into the forest floor after years of silent nutrient release. Soil directly beneath a fully decomposed Douglas fir log contains 2 to 4 times more nitrogen than adjacent undisturbed soil. The log was feeding the forest floor the entire time it was disappearing, silently, invisibly, completely. Now compare that to the living tree this log came from. The heartwood of a living tree, the interior of the trunk, is made entirely of dead cells serving only structural functions. The living tissue of a large old tree represents less than 1% of that tree's total mass. A rotting log has fungi, bacteria, protozoa, nematodes, and an entire animal community actively respiring inside every cubic centimeter simultaneously. The total number of living organisms per cubic centimeter of stage 3 wood vastly exceeds the equivalent volume of a living tree. And no animal demonstrates this more completely than the stag beetle. Female stag beetles, Lucana cervus in Europe, seek out partially decayed oak logs and lay their eggs deep inside. The larva that hatches is a cream-colored C-shaped grub that immediately begins feeding on the wood. It can't digest raw cellulose directly. Its gut microbiome of specialized bacteria and protozoa ferments the wood fiber into usable sugars and amino acids. This relationship between the larva and its gut microbiome is obligate. Without those microbes, the larva cannot survive even surrounded by a log full of wood. That larva stays inside for 3 to 5 years, sometimes up to 6 years in cold climates. It grows through 3 developmental instars, reaching up to 11 centimeters in length, entirely inside the log. Then it constructs a pupal chamber from wood fragments and saliva, pupates through winter, and emerges as an adult the following summer. The adult stag beetle lives for only a few weeks. Less than 5% of its entire life is spent above ground. The stag beetle is now listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List across parts of Europe. The conservation solution isn't a breeding program or habitat restoration project. It's simply leaving old stumps and fallen logs where they are. Sweden, Finland, and Germany have all written minimum dead wood retention targets into national forestry guidelines. Research shows forests need at least 20 to 30 cubic meters of dead wood per hectare, but old-growth forests naturally hold up to 200 cubic meters per hectare. If you want to see what happens when a massive ocean predator loses its prey base and disappears forever, that video is right here.